This is ANCAP-SU, and we're going to discuss the latest smokescreen that the CF and Lula are trying to throw against Bolsonaro. Bolsonaro handled 30 million reais in 1 year. How absurd, he moved 30 million reais. And where did this money come from? Was it from corruption? Was it from some shady scheme? No, it came from PIX donations. In other words, they're trying to portray this as something negative. See Bolsonaro handling money? They suspect money laundering because someone spent $70,000 on lottery tickets, alleging Bolsonaro is a lottery addict. Look at that. The famous Folha reader doesn't consider this a donation. In politics, it's called an investment. What a bad investment, because you're investing in a politician who supposedly can't run in 2026 and will supposedly be arrested. In other words, it's a bad investment. And notice that they don't say anything about the origin of the money being illicit or related to corruption. Bolsonaro didn't become wealthy when he was president. It was after he left office, when he requested help to pay the fine related to the mask mandate imposed on him. That's when he made his money. People in Brazil, outraged by what's happening to him, made donations via PIX. There's nothing wrong with the source of this. In other words, ultimately, this should be seen as a demonstration of Bolsonaro's significance in Brazilian politics. It's a show of support, that's what I'm saying. These are different things. One thing is for someone to tell a Quest interviewer that they're going to vote for Lula, or that they're not. It doesn't cost them anything. Another thing is for people to contribute to help Bolsonaro. So you can see the extent of Bolsonaro's support in Brazil and all this. So this report here, once again, the police wanted to create a smokescreen to divert attention, to say that Bolsonaro is bad, and so on. And in the end, it only shows that Bolsonaro is strong and has enormous support from the Brazilian people. This news was suggested by Associação dos Sapos Asfaltados by Peter and several other people. Thanks to those who suggested news on our site, Visa Libertarian.com, and thanks to you for watching our video. If you like our content, please like and subscribe to our channel. So, in another chapter of the smokescreen, they're trying to create with the Magnitsky issue, right? Because what's actually happening? What's actually happening is that the CF ministers are terrified because Magnitsky is catching up with Alexandre de Moraes. He's starting to have doubts about seeing through the process of, so to speak, the coup by Alexandre de Moraes. So the media wants to divert attention at all costs. And it also gives them a lead in the chamber. Don't forget that, okay? Hugo Moura and Alcalum are being pressured to approve the amnesty and impeachment of Alexandre de Moraes. It's logical that the Lula government doesn't want this. Logically, the left doesn't want this either. They want to distract attention with totally irrelevant facts. But I think it's important to talk about this here because, although they are irrelevant facts, it's crucial that people understand. Notice what's not being said here. There's no mention of the origin of this money. Everyone did it. I sent several times. I sent at the end of 2023 because of the mask fine during the pandemic, and also in 2024 because of the lawyers. He received that money, and another detail, didn't the total PIX transfers amount to 30 million? It was 7 million one time, then 12 million another time. I'm not sure what else. Yes, but notice that they talk about transactions. A transaction involves receiving and sending. So when you add both, receiving and sending, you double the amount, right? So it's about PIX. And this actually speaks well of Bolsonaro. It shows how popular he is and has a strong base of supporters. Right? It should be seen as a positive thing, not a negative one. The press is trying to spin this as, oh, the absurdity. Readers, there's no such thing as a donation to a politician. I find it very amusing that Folha uses its own readers to make political points about this story, but anyway. People are saying that anti-PT sentiment has become a gold mine for the worst kind of people to profit from and gain power. There's no such thing as a donation to a politician. It's an investment, my friend. You're talking about a candidate you're persecuting, trying to imprison, and banning from the 2026 election. How is this going to work? Who would invest in a candidate like that? It doesn't make any... People are helping precisely because they see he's a victim of a huge and brutal injustice. And this actually shows that, again, how do I know it's via PIX? I know it's PIX because otherwise they would have spoken out. They would have revealed the origin of that money. They would have said he received it from something or someone, that some businessman, a big one, gave it to him. Do you doubt that if there was a big businessman among these donations, just one, his name wouldn't be mentioned here? It's logical they'd say no, because a particular businessman is backing Bolsonaro. There's nothing. They don't say a word about who donated to Bolsonaro. Why? Because it was a bunch of people donating our $2, our $10, our $20. Small change. So you can't look at this and say it's not absurd? Is investing in Bolsonaro? Are they thinking, will my $20 give me political profits in the next election? No way. The guy donated because he wants to help, because he saw the absurdity of the persecution against Bolsonaro and wanted to help, right? Look, here's Reinaldo Azevedo. The farce discredits the simplicity of the common folk and exposes Bolsonaro to millionaires. No, on the contrary, you know why? Because it shows he didn't get richer while in office. He made money after being president when he asked for help from the people. So Bolsonaro is indeed simple. It doesn't discredit the whole thing. Of course, the left is celebrating because they think it's over, that this is the end, that they'll destroy Bolsonaro now. But in the end, they know this is just a smokescreen. And once again, they try to draw a parallel with the Lava Jato scandal, not because Lula had an apartment worth who knows how many millions by the beach in Guarujá, the triplex in Guarujá, and so on. But the problem with the triplex in Guarujá wasn't Lula owning it. I've always said that. I said, look, Lula is the president. He has money. He could buy a duplex in Guarujá. There's nothing stopping him from buying a triplex in Guarujá, a farm in Atibaia. There was no issue with that. The problem was the origin of the money. Who gave the triplex in Guarujá to Lula? It was OAS, a construction company. So that's where things get strange, right? The farm in Tiba, he put it in a friend's name, a businessman, I believe. In other words, all this shows the difference, right? The hypocrisy of Lula, who claims to be poor but isn't really, and Bolsonaro, who made money now precisely because of his request for help to people precisely because of the significant political support he enjoys in Brazil. Many people supported and donated money to Bolsonaro without even knowing the details. I just hope Bolsonaro gets elected next year so I can vote for him. That's all I want, nothing more. They start with this talk. Look, another thing they did that didn't stick, the issue of Bolsonaro's family homes. Remember there was a scandal about Bolsonaro's family homes? They said Bolsonaro bought homes for who knows how many millions in cash. That's a lie. The expression in local currency just means it's in Brazilian reals. It doesn't mean it was cash. It could have been a bank transfer. They considered Bolsonaro's family. If they only considered Bolsonaro and his immediate family, it wasn't even close to that amount. There's a cousin of Bolsonaro's who invests in real estate and has a company, and then they said it was the whole family, Bolsonaro's family, implying that they were close to him, right? My friend, if you consider my entire family, my wealthy cousins, I have a rich uncle, I have an uncle with money. If you consider my entire family, they'll say, I'm a millionaire. No, I'm not. I'm broke here in Rio de Janeiro. It's the same with Bolsonaro. And now again, they're trying to play this game. And I'm curious, why are they doing this to Bolsonaro if at this moment Bolsonaro is barred from running in 2026? So he has no chance of running in 2026? Probably. Or is there a chance he'll be arrested? About 2 months ago, I would have said he would be arrested for sure. There was no chance of Bolsonaro being arrested. I even said that in a video. Nowadays, I have my doubts, but he's still ineligible. Let's see how things will unfold from here. Then with Trump's move, now I'm not sure if it's going to happen or not. Why is there so much concern about attacking Bolsonaro, right? And what's more, check this out. Yesterday, there was some research by Quest that really helped Lula a lot. Not because Lula regained support, whatever, and I explained to you that yes, there was a recovery of support. They can't criticize the origin of the money here. Bolsonaro transferred $70,000 to his brother's lottery retailer. Wow, Bolsonaro plays the lottery. Bolsonaro is another statistical illiterate in Brazil. I've criticized Bolsonaro for this too. The lottery, my friend, is a tax you pay for not knowing statistics. Stop it. Bolsonaro invests in the stock market, in Bitcoin, in anything but the lottery. The money you spend on the lottery, you're losing that money. It's the tax you're paying, right? Anyway, I know there are people who like it, and again, who plays because they enjoy it. That's fine, right? I spend money on Pokemon Go, so I shouldn't criticize someone who spends money on the lottery, should I? Each person has their own hobby they enjoy and spend their money on, right? 70,000. So there were 103 transfers between 2024 and 2025. He played the lottery multiple times and paid the lottery retailer owned by his brother. And what's wrong with that? They make it sound like a big scandal. 70,000 reais in 2 years. That's a significant amount of money. I think Bolsonaro is spending money on the lottery. But it's not disappointing. He made some lottery pools, spent money, and that's at E. There's nothing wrong with that. Bolsonaro transferred $2 million to Michelle before his testimony, according to the federal police. So the guy transferring money to his wife is considered a problem. It makes total sense because he was about to give a testimony to the federal police, and everyone knew there was a possibility of him being arrested. Everyone knew that. And the family can't access the money because you're arrested. You can't transfer the money. So he transferred part of the money to his wife to manage the household, for them to have money to buy things and food, which is completely normal, right? Why $2 million? Because it's a long period and you don't know how long you'll be in prison, so you put some money in her account to allow her to manage things. Then I don't know why she also transferred money to Eduardo and others. He gave money to his wife and children. What's wrong with that? It's astonishing. The federal police suspect money laundering involving $44 million moved by Bolsonaro over 2 years. So Bolsonaro received and transferred $44 million between March 2023 and July 2025. Again, the most curious thing about this story is that they examined a period after Bolsonaro left office. What's the logic in that? He didn't get rich while he was president. Why is he being persecuted like this now? I'm bringing this up, aren't I? And they don't say anything about the origin of the money because there's nothing to say. The origin of the money is PIX. People sent it to him and that was it, no problem. In other words, another big bunch of nothing, a bunch of things they're trying to present as negative for Bolsonaro. But actually, if you remember that this was money people donated to him via PIX, it just shows his support. Lula would love to have 1/10 of that. He doesn't have it. He doesn't have that kind of support. And that's what really scares these people. The fact that they're speaking out so much against Bolsonaro at this moment only shows one thing: the importance of Bolsonaro in Brazilian politics. How much they've tried to remove him from the political process in Brazil at any cost and are not succeeding. And I say more, these people aren't realizing it, but this fight against him is turning him into a martyr. This imprisonment of Bolsonaro, putting an electronic ankle monitor on him, this flurry of daily attacks against him, you're creating a monster. You haven't realized it, but you're creating a monster that will dominate Brazilian politics for the next 50 years. Thanks for watching the video until the end. In addition to liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel, consider becoming a member with values starting from $0.39 USD. Click on the Become a Member button below to learn about the conditions and benefits of being a channel member. More information about our project is available on the websites shown on the screen.